If you can explain to our audience, what is care economy?
इसके दो पहलू हैं. One is care that is paid for and there is unpaid care. And you can look at it from a women's rights lens. आप इसको health lens के जरिए देख सकते हैं कि आप
तो देखने में ये आया है कि कुछ सोसाइटी घबरा ज़्यादा जाती है कि इससे कुछ स्ट्रक्चर्स चेंज हो जाएंगे.
It's about love. Why do we not have that caring and loving in our work?
How does it impact a child's mind if the mother is suppressed and unhappy all the time?
इसमें a happy mother, a satisfied mother, and a knowledgeable mother will do the best for their kid.
Talking about the government, are they acknowledging care economy as an important aspect of economy?
Policies hain, they need to be monitored, because if it's not monitored, what you inspect is what you can expect. As somebody with the authority, I would definitely put 1% at least of our GDP into it. Only are doing short-term patchwork.
Generations change.
That's right.
Yeah. अस्सलाम वालेकुम, आपकी होस्ट नबीला मालिक, अगला एपिसोड जेंडर टॉक्स के साथ. और आज हम जिस मौजू पे बात करेंगे, द टॉपिक दैट वी हैव चोजन फॉर दिस एपिसोड इज़ maybe some people think the most important topic, and that is women's economic empowerment. And more important than this is the role that care economy plays in this. What is care economy? How can women do their best to put their share in the progress of the country, in the prosperity of the country? In order to get answers to these very difficult questions, we have with us today Ahsan Jameel Saab. He has come all the way from Karachi especially to talk to us. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Ahsan, I will briefly introduce him. He is an entrepreneur, a professional as well, then turned entrepreneur, then turned investor, then something else, but a lot of things. And now he is running Ubuntu Care, one of the things that he's doing, and then he's also doing something in Health X. We'll ask him in a bit what these things are, but most importantly, coming to the topic of today's session, if you can explain to our audience, what do we mean when we say care economy? What is care economy?
So
What's got care got anything to do with economy? Care is love.
Yes, well, it's very interesting you said that care is love, because that's what human beings are, that they have to care for each other. And I think that, first to answer the question straight off, ye jitna kaam hota hai care ka, jisme you have, domestic work, you have childcare, you have elderly care, or even healthcare. But primarily when we talk about the healthcare, because there is a health industry, but when we talk about care, we're really referring to ये जो घर पे काम ख़वातीन ख़ास तौर पे करती हैं, ज़्यादातर वही करती हैं. चाइल्ड केयर उनके सर पे आता है, और एल्डरली केयर भी, घर का काम भी. सो इसके दो पहलू हैं. वन इज़ केयर दैट इज़ पेड फॉर एंड देयर इज़ अनपेड केयर. So if you think about the care industry in terms of the unpaid care work, in Pakistan, 11 times greater is the role of women than men in doing unpaid care work. And while the average in Asia is 4.4 times, so Pakistan is 11 times greater. So the care economy measured in terms of the paid work and the unpaid work is the economy we talk about. And according to Gates Foundation, वो ग्लोबल बात कर रहे हैं, पाकिस्तान पे इतनी रिसर्च उस तरीके से नहीं है, कि it is in the trillions of $3.5 to $4 trillion can be contributed if women's unpaid work would come into paid work.
थोड़ा सा और समझाएं. देखें, I'm just trying to ask from a lay person's point of view. Now you are talking about child care, parents care, in-laws care. تو یہ تو ہماری سوسائٹی میں دس از دیز آر واٹ وی کال اے وومنس ریسپانسبلٹیز. تو ہاؤ کین یو پٹ نمبرز آن اٹ اینڈ وائی ڈو یو نیڈ ٹو پٹ نمبرز آن اٹ؟
دیکھیے there are many reasons and you can look at it from a women's rights lens. آپ اس کو ہیلتھ لینس کے ذریعے دیکھ سکتے ہیں کہ بھی آپ کی your own mental health if you don't work, and you can look at this from an economic lens. So all three of these lenses have their own cases. So اگر ہم اس کو رائٹس لینس کے ذریعے دیکھتے ہیں تو ہم یہ دیکھتے ہیں کہ a woman has the right to fulfill her own potential, and if she doesn't, to the extent that she doesn't, she gets suppressed. اسی طریقے سے ہماری سوسائٹی میں ایک رول دیا ہوا ہے کہ if you're a woman, traditional role is you look after the house, you look after the children, you look after the elders, you do all of this, and for which you do not get paid. اور اگر آپ ٹیلنٹڈ ہیں اور آپ کو وہ موقع نہیں مل رہے تو آپ کی تو طبیعت اور خراب ہوگی. And the other part is that the competence of women today, اگر آپ اسکولوں میں اور کالجز میں رزلٹس دیکھیں تو ان کی سر فہرست خواتین کا نام آتا ہے، لڑکیوں کا نام آتا ہے. سو ٹیلنٹ بھی ہے وہاں پر اور آپ کے پاس نیڈ بھی ہے اس ریسورس کی. ڈبل انکم کے بغیر اس وقت گزارا نہیں ہے، اینڈ وہ اکنامک پریشر بھی ہے اور دوسری طرف سوشل پریشر سے اور ٹریڈیشنل رول سے آپ کو روکا جا رہا ہے.
ٹھیک ہے.
تو مین پوائنٹ از دیٹ جو ٹریڈیشنل رول جس کا آپ تذکرہ کر رہی تھیں، یہ رول اب بہت ہی جسے کہتے ہیں ریگریسو رول ہو گیا ہے. چاہے آپ اس کو اکنامکلی لیں، چاہے آپ اس کو رائٹس کی بنیاد پہ لیں، چاہے آپ اس کو مینٹل ہیلتھ کی لینس سے دیکھیں، یہ تینوں جگہ پر ہمیں نقصان پہنچا رہا ہے کہ خواتین کو ہم نے پیچھے رکھا ہوا ان ٹریڈیشنل رولس میں.
تو کیا حل ہے آپ کے پاس، کیا سلوشن ہے؟ بیکاز دیز آر آلسو ویری امپورٹنٹ رولس of a human being, whether a woman is delivering it or a man is delivering, regardless. What is the solution if women are to fulfill their full potential, which of course as a human being is their right, then who will look after all these other chores that they do for zero cost? What kind of a society are you envisaging with this care economy philosophy that is there?
دیکھیں, first of all we have to recognize that women are doing so much more work and they're not getting paid for it.
Okay.
Number two, we have to redistribute the work. We have to push against some of these roles that have been assigned. And the world is changing so fast. And if Pakistan or generally anywhere in Asia, if we want to keep up with the developed world, we have to recognize, number one, and then redistribute the work. There are many men also who are also in some ways, agar aap isko, if you see it as a patriarchal system, تو اس میں جو رولز مردوں کو بھی دیے گئے ہیں وہ بھی زبردستی ہیں.
تو آپ بتا رہے تھے کہ وہ کیئر اکانومی رائٹس بیسڈ ایک سسٹم ہے جس میں کہ فل پوٹینشیل کوئی بھی انسان، چاہے آدمی ہے چاہے عورت ہے، وہ اپنا اوبٹین کر سکتے ہیں. تھوڑی سی اس کی مزید ہمارے آڈینس کو تھوڑا ایکسپلین کریں کہ ہاؤ ڈز اٹ ریئلی ورک ایٹ اے ہاؤس لیول.
دیکھیے, سب سے پہلے جو چیز ہمیں کرنی ہے وہ ہمیں ریکگنائز کرنا ہے کہ یہ ڈسپرپورشنیٹ اماؤنٹ آف ورک خواتین کر رہی ہیں اور یہ پیٹریارکل سسٹم میں رولز ڈیفائنڈ ہیں, اور اس رول میں کچھ مردوں کو تو پتہ بھی نہیں ہے کہ وہ اپنے رولز میں بھی ٹھسے ہوئے ہیں. دے تھنک دے ہیو مور پاور, بٹ ایکچولی چوائس از واٹ یو ہیو ٹو کریٹ. اینڈ اکنامک لینس سے آپ کو اگر یہ کام کرنا ہے تو پہلے ریکگنائز کر کے ورک کو ریڈسٹریبیوٹ کرنا ہے. سو ایک سوشل نارم میں یہ آنا چاہیے, اف مین ہیو ٹو ڈو سم آف دا کیئر ورک. اب جیسے میں نے آپ کو بتایا کہ پاکستان میں خاص طور پہ دا ڈفرینس بٹوین ویمن ڈوئنگ ان پیڈ ورک اینڈ مین ڈوئنگ ان پیڈ ورک از اے ڈفرینس آف 11 times, وچ از اینڈ ان ایشیا اٹس 4.4 times. تو اسی سے آپ کو پتہ چل سکتا ہے کہ پاکستان کتنا پیچھے ہے اس معاملے میں. ہمارے مرد حضرات کتنا اور کام کر سکتے ہیں جو کہ ان پیڈ کیئر ورک جو گھریلو کام ہے اس میں اپنا ہاتھ بٹا سکتے ہیں. بیرون ملک یہی ہوتا ہے کہ میاں بیوی ساتھ اس دونوں کام کرتے ہیں اور گھر کے بھی کام بانٹ کے کرتے ہیں. تو ایک تو یہ ڈسٹریبیوشن ہے. اس کے بعد یہ ہے کہ آپ کو خواتین کو مواقع دینے کہ وہ ٹرین ہو جائیں, ان کو وہ جو ان کی صلاحیتیں ہیں وہ اس کو لے کر آگے چلیں. تو ہر مرحلے پہ اس پہ there are barriers that they are not able to do this, whether the barrier is the husband or the father or the brothers. This is now one of the good things about our economic struggles is that even the men in the family are beginning to realize کہ without the woman working
گھر نہیں چلتا,
گھر نہیں چلے گا. تو یہ موقع اچھا ہے فار دس. اینڈ اس میں کیئر انڈسٹری کا رول بہت بڑا ہے. کیئر انڈسٹری جو ہے اس میں اگر ہم پیڈ ورک کی طرف دیکھیں تو خواتین جو کام گھر پہ کرتی ہیں وہ اگر جا کے کام کریں اپنی صلاحیت کے حساب سے, اور وہ ڈے کیئر جیسا ان کے پاس نظام ہو جس میں وہ اپنے بچوں کو چھوڑ سکتی ہیں. کہ 3 حصے دیکھیں تو اس میں ایک تو اہم چیز یہ ہے کہ کیئر اکانومی خواتین کو جابس دے گی, ٹھیک ہے. دوسرا یہ ہے کہ وہ خواتین کو جاب کرنے کی اپرچونٹی دے گی کیونکہ ان کے بچوں کا خیال کیا, آزادی دے گی. اور تیسرا یہ ہے کہ یہ ایک کریئر بن سکتا ہے
خود سے, کیئر اکانومی خود سے.
So people become professional, they get trained and they become a part of a whole economy, whole sector. And this can improve a country's GDP, اس کی economy, اس کی wealth.
اس کے خلاف ہر چیز کے خلاف ہی ریزسٹنس ہے, خاص طور پہ اگر کوئی چیز عورت کے بینیفٹ کو جاتی ہو. تو دیکھنے میں یہ آیا ہے کہ کچھ سوسائٹی گھبرا زیادہ جاتی ہے کہ اس سے کچھ سٹرکچرز چینج ہو جائیں گے, کچھ زندگی کا رہنے کا طریقہ شاید بدل جائے گا, بہت ہم ویسٹرنائز ہو جائیں گے. Would you say to all these fears?
I think ایک چیز جو ہماری زندگی میں پکی ہے وہ ہے چینج,
Whether you like it or
not. اور اس چینج کو امبریس کرنا, اس کو ایکسیپٹ کرنا اور اس کو گائیڈ کرنا. کہ مثال کے طور پہ اگر آپ کام نہیں کرنے دیں گے تو آپ اپنی ہیلتھ کو بھی خراب کر رہے ہیں, آپ اپنی اکانومی کو بھی نہیں بڑھنے دے رہے, اور اصل میں آپ آدھی جو پاپولیشن ہے اس کو آپ ڈسیشن میکنگ میں نہیں آنے دیتے. ہم لوگ اس وقت جو کارپوریٹ ورلڈ میں کیا کرتے ہیں, ہم ڈائیورسٹی لانا چاہتے ہیں کہ بھئی فلاں بیک گراؤنڈ کا بھی ہمارے پاس ٹیم میں شخص ہو, فلاں بیک گراؤنڈ کا بھی ہو, تاکہ یہ پرسپیکٹیو آئے, تاکہ جب ہم فیصلے کریں تو ہم ان کو کئی زاویوں سے دیکھ لیں. اب ایک یہ اہم زاویہ ہے جو کہ خواتین رکھتی ہیں, اس کو بھی آنا چاہیے.
50%
50% I mean,
of the population.
And their experience is so important.
Their experience
because
is
if you look at the world today, it is the construct of a certain kind of male thinking.
It is.
And it does not have the benefit of certain kinds of, that lens that does a lot of the caring work.
Misses out on the 50% of the population. It's just promoting one half of the population.
That's right, and it's a huge loss because when we talk about care, جیسے آپ نے شروع میں بات کی تھی کہ it's about love. Why do we not have that caring and loving in our work? Because we see it very much as a cut and dry mechanical thing, and I think if women were more involved in it, it would have that element that is important to balance.
That's an interesting perspective to have, that our world should be more equality-based.
Equality-based, I think there should be more caring.
You said it should be equality-based because only then it can become that loving and caring world that we all want.
I think so. I mean, obviously this is a generalization, but it's not to say that men cannot be loving or anything like that.
No, of course they can.
It's the point is, it's unfair. It's economically a setback. And it's creating more mental health problems. And iska fallout, if mothers are unhappy, then what is the quality of mothering? And if a mother is more self-realized, अपने potential को realize कर रही है, then she'll be a happier person, a happier partner, a happier parent.
I think this is a very important aspect that you just brought my attention to. Mother and child relationship. And how does it impact a child's mind if the mother is suppressed and unhappy all the time, even if she is limited to the household chores and the so-called care work and not allowed to explore her potential outside the house. Still, compared to a woman who has a full life and is satisfied with the quality of her life, the kind of mother she will be and the kind of mother that this other person would be, do you think there'll be a difference, or at the end of the day a child will just benefit more from a mother who's always around and there?
So I think
because you said you're a therapist and
yes.
Okay, so bring in that element.
So yes, I mean, one of the things, if I can just talk from a personal experience perspective, as I was mentioning to you earlier, is that I've worked in the juvenile jail. And there were young boys in that jail who were 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds, who were in for drugs, who were in for armed robbery, they were in for terrorism. And when I spent those Saturdays with them, I realized that they were babies and how we as a society had let these people down. And what kind of parenting had they gotten? And then what kind of parenting had their parents gotten? And one of them was a rickshaw driver's son. And his father had anger management problems. And he set him on fire at one point, or tried to. And so the messaging of you being worthless, and that comes from the very early stage of your life. If a mother is unhappy, so let's say a baby, bacha, it takes in, it's like a sponge. Pehle 3 saal mein, it'll absorb anything good or bad. And that's why these early years are very critical. And which is why I realized when in deciding to go for setting up daycares, is that how do we access young mothers and babies and support them in their parenting? Because parents are your first teachers, and how trained are they in parenting? Right? We want schools with good teachers, but our first teachers and our most receptive phase of life is the first 1,000 days, first 2,000 days. And that's mostly with parents. So I think it takes a village to bring up kids. Purani kahavat hai. Lekin ab ye ke by getting the knowledge and the research that is available to us, which is now coming into the ways in which daycares, good quality daycares are being run, and the training behind that. And that has to be accessible to young mothers, whether it is by sending their kids to daycares or whether it is by having that training themselves. ताकि ये जो माँ बच्चे का रिश्ता है, इसमें a happy mother, a satisfied mother, and a knowledgeable mother will do the best for their kid.
It was interesting that now it's being acknowledged that yes, that training is required, because traditionally we believe that it comes naturally to women. It becomes naturally, once you become a mother, you will know everything there is to know. Tell me a little bit about the Ubuntu Care project and the main features of it, and how is this helping this whole philosophy?
Basically, Ubuntu Care is a South African philosophy.
Okay, what does it mean, Ubuntu?
So it really means, how can I be happy if others are not?
Really?
Yeah.
One word meaning so many words.
It's a philosophy, right?
It's a philosophy.
So this was the philosophy.
Ubuntu philosophy.
So, for example, Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela, they used this philosophy in the Truth and Reconciliation that happened in South Africa.
Right.
There could have been bloodshed when the blacks won the elections. And it was their foresight and leadership, and it was based on this philosophy that we are, I am who I am because of who we all are. So we have to take collective responsibility for ourselves. So I just thought this was, an important philosophy, one of the best leadership ideas I'd heard of in my life. So wanted to embrace that. And we've set up daycares at corporates to begin with. So women who want to come and work don't have to stop working because they have a baby. 3-4 months later, their baby. We take babies in from the age of 4 months
Really,
to
that
6
young?
years. That's right. That's because otherwise, pehle 2 saal. So research shows that the first 2 years there is very little service available, support available, and there's very little law covering it also. And so that is an area where Ubuntu really is focusing, 0 to 3 years.
Okay.
And we'd like to think that it's in the pre-verbal phase, and that the baby needs the most kind of caring and needs the most intelligent kind of caring, because the baby cannot talk about what its needs are. You've got to know them. And babies are growing so fast. In 4 months, a baby changes much more than a 6-year-old to a 6.5-year-old, right? So you've got to be that much more trained, and the training is more skills-based. It's less intellectual stuff. Of course, you've got to understand the theory and the framework, but after that, it's how you do it. This is why we set up Ubuntu. Ubuntu is right now working in corporates, and the idea is that if corporates are willing to pay for this quality of service, then we've got the quality right. And how do we show that model? How do we get funding for that so that it can go to scale? And ultimately, one has to work with government. And that's where the real systemic scaling can happen.
Talking about the government, are they acknowledging care economy as an important aspect of economy? And are there any measures taken by the government to sort of at least move towards?
Qasme waade pyar wafa. Sab baatein hain, baaton ka kya? Of course, the government has, they've got some of the best policies and statements and things in place. But the implementation of it, the law may as well not be there, although I'm glad the law is there. But so having said that, they do have some organizations that are not working that well. लेकिन यह कि अब मिसाल के तौर पे कहने को even Chief Minister in the Punjab made it one of her top agenda points. And the Punjab, even before her, has made great progress relative to the other provinces, where they've got some kind of guidelines on daycares and childcare, and they've got a childcare fund. But it is a drop in the ocean, because a lot more is needed. Policies, they need to be monitored, because if it's not monitored, what you inspect is what you can expect. If you don't inspect it, you will be no surprises. You cannot expect it.
I think that's one problem we're having in all the other areas as well, poor implementation. So other than that, what else is there that Pakistan needs to immediately start working on vis-a-vis care economy and its acceptance?
I think we've got to put our money where our mouth is. There are two things. One is we have to recognize its importance. What happens you learn more in the first 6 years of your life than you do in the rest of it.
You're talking about a child very young. This is something that has to be volunteered, understood first, which is a very long way of going about things. It can't be made mandatory that you can only let your child be with a very qualified person. You can't let your child be raised at home with unskilled people or whatever. There can't be anything like that.
You're right.
Which means that people have to agree to it. And that can be a very long process. So what can the government do, or what can we do, people who want this change?
So I think, number one, you have to have a budget for it. You have to put money behind it, because right now there is no budget for, early years education. And the definition of early years right now is 3 years and above, whereas early years has to be from the first 1,000 days. Because, people get shocked when I tell them, I think even your reaction, we take babies into our daycare.
True.
In fact, that's our main interest. So that when mothers are feeding their babies, they can be at the workplace and not have to quit because they can't feed their babies. And so I think the first thing is they've got to recognize the first 1,000 days, and they've got to make a budget. They've got to put their money where their mouth is and put a percentage of GDP into it. And they've got to be, if somebody today, if I was for example, I had a
finance
magic wand,
minister.
or I was the minister, or I was somebody with authority. I would definitely put 1% at least of our GDP into it, because this is long-term investing. We only are doing short-term patchwork.
Generations change.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you want real tabdili, then if you want to change the citizenry of our country, then make sure they are cared for and they trust the people they're being brought up by in their early years. A lot of things they'll figure out themselves.
Very interesting. And I do hope that some of the people who have the authority are listening and are moved. I would just like to ask you about this South Asian project, which is the Care Accelerator project. I believe you were part of it. So it's a UN Women initiative. What do you think of it? Just a little bit about what it is, what you think of it, and how is that going to help with this objective?
So the APPA, Asia Pacific Care Accelerator,
Yeah,
that it's called, and they've
APPA.
now brought in a very interesting term about inclusive care. So I think it's a fabulous initiative because it is one element, a very powerful element of a bigger enterprise that UN Women are doing. And Ubuntu was chosen from Pakistan. We were the only company that got chosen out of the 13 companies in this accelerator that out of Pakistan. There were 4 from India, 4 from Bangladesh, 3 from Indonesia, etc. So we were very excited to be representing Pakistan in that way. But the program was, I've got to say, the best part of the program was actually conducted by the UN Women side of it on gender. From Ubuntu's perspective, some of my team members, the kinds of policies we were able to bring in, which is harassment at the workplace, whistleblowing, code of conduct. How do you make a place safe for women to come to? And and what is gender sensitive product design? What is gender responsive marketing? So a lot of these terms we got introduced to. The other thing was that the program really enabled a number of us young organizations to put into their DNA this gender lens, as well as we made a network of other entrepreneurs. What are they doing in their countries? What are their solutions? And so I got to learn a lot about elderly care. They got to learn a lot about childcare from Ubuntu, and lots of ideas along the way. The experts they introduced us to, the mentoring, the language, or how do you get a company valued? We're more into just doing the work. But eventually, if you want to grow this, you've got to get capital to
So the
back
business
it.
side of
The
it.
business side. Because real growth will occur with capital. And so I think the program also unlocked a lot of innovation. It got us all to think differently. Okay, just like you were saying, long-term solutions to hone chahiye, we've got to start them now. But what's the immediate steps one can take? Which is to create something that keeps us all connected, to be able to advocate, to be able to create research for making a very strong case for the care industry. So as far as the Accelerator program was concerned, it gave us exposure. It got us out to, it linked us up to the Feminist Finance Forum. It made us understand that we're not alone in some of these struggles. And there were some remarkable women, the majority of even at Ubuntu, I am a co-founder with my founder. She is a Parsi lady who's been running Montessori's for many years, Gulnar Kabraji. And in a lot of the accelerator companies, they were founded and led by women or co-founded. And I think one of the most impressive things about this accelerator program is the network put in front of investors. You were advised on how to manage the business, but also think about how do you run a company which is largely going to have women in it.
That's very good to hear, and we wish you luck there. My last question to you is, I was wondering about this aspect of it. The world is going digital. Has technology made this care economy or care work easier or more difficult? What would you say, and how can it support? Because technology depends on how you use it,
Right.
how you apply it. So it can work both ways. But how can we use it to get sort of to make care work easier, probably?
So, that's a great question. I hadn't actually seen its benefits in the work that I was doing until I went to the Accelerator.
Really?
And in the Accelerator program, I was exposed to what they were doing in a couple of countries where they were training caregivers and through a digital platform, linking them to people that wanted caregivers in their houses. So they were using technology and their website as a place where people who need caregivers for their houses, for elderly care or for childcare, and they could go to this company's website, and they would be assured that trained people who this company trained, did the background check, all of that, and there was a tripartite agreement because on the one hand, the employer of the caregiver wants to get qualified and competent people and reliable people. The caregiver also needs to feel safe inside somebody's house.
True.
So the tripartite had all those elements in there. And so it's a great business. You train people, you put them, connect them to where they are needed. And some of these businesses, in fact, the one that won the first prize was a business that was doing this very successfully in Thailand.
Right.
You see, technology, that was an example of a business that used technology to solve a problem, right? And technology has so many other ways of helping, like appointment setting, reminders for medication for the elderly, making sure that you're able to provide information easily. Go to a website, you can choose which are the three carers you want to interview, so on and so forth. So technology is an enabler. It cannot replace. People like to think that you might be able to get a robot that can, I'm never say never, but the point is that I don't see the human element in upbringing, in bringing up a child or even a elderly parent being replaced by technology, but it can really help.
Yeah, help part is good, and that much, I think, the more we can use it positively, it's better. It's a very wide subject, it's vast, and I don't think we have even scratched the surface of it, but I'm afraid my time is up. Thank you very much, Ahsan. It was very nice talking to you. You got some ideas cleared, and hopefully, if there is demand, we will probably get you back on the program with some other people as well. Right now, what I understood and what is, I think, basically common sense is that care work is an important work. There are different ways of managing it. If we leave that burden on one gender, then we are, as a society, depriving ourselves of the full potential. And we don't need to do that. That work can also be very systematically done for the benefit of the society, and there are other solutions that can be looked into. But the important part is that the care economy needs to be acknowledged as an important part of the work system of our lives, and then we give it the due importance and deal with it. With this, it's our time for today's episode has ended. Thank you very much. See you next time. Allah Hafiz.